So I was just taking a shot of the mountains there, getting really low, trying to capture the reflections. And I heard this rolling sound and watched my filter, my polarizer filter, just roll across the ice. Morning everyone and welcome back to the vlog. If you're new to the channel, I'm Andy Locke, a landscape photographer located here in Scotland in the UK. And I am in the absolute stunningly beautiful but very remote Rannoch Moor, and it's a chilly -4, -5 degrees, but it was well worth getting up at 5 o'clock this morning to get here. It is absolutely stunning. You can sort of see there's still some beautiful snow on the hills over there, and there's a little bit of ice formed on the loch and some nice frost on the grasses, and at the moment have got the place completely to ourselves. So anyway, I'm just setting up my first shot, so let's show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera. So you can see I've got my first shot all set up ready, and we've got these beautiful reflections on the loch here with a few stones just in front, just to give the image a little bit of foreground interest. And the light is just capturing the beautiful snowy hills just sat behind there. Now I've got the there is the road that runs down through here, and unfortunately this time of the morning everybody's driving past with their car lights on, and it's quite a long exposure. It's around about 10 seconds, so it's a case of just waiting for that traffic to stop going by so that I don't pick up the lights. But it really is stunning just with that light. Fortunately there's a little bit of cloud just up there as well, just giving a little bit of texture to the sky. We've got the light on the hills and that beautiful reflection, those blues in the loch and just in front of us. It's a really tranquil scene that, what a great start to the morning. Anyway, let's get that shot. You have to be a little bit careful when you come to an area like this, because there's so much around to photograph, and it's really tempting just to leap from one place to the next. But you can just really miss those stunning scenes. So it's good to just stay in a specific area and just wait for those ideal conditions. The sun's just coming up and just capturing some of those clouds now. You can just see the pinks in the sky as well as that dark blue just over the hills, and the light on the mountains absolutely stunning. So I'm really just focusing in this particular area rather than darting around too much and just setting up my next composition. So I've just set up my second composition, and what I've done is just come up the hill a little bit higher just to give myself a little bit of separation on the loch here as it comes around, and we've got this little small pinnacle that just comes out across the loch. And then we've got the hills with that soft pink light coming over, which is really beautiful. The contrast in those strong dark blues, light hitting the hills, and then the pinks just coming across the sky. It really is a stunning soft image. And then we're just capturing some of that colour just below. I'm shooting on my 70 to 200mm lens at around about 2-second exposure, f14, and I'm just waiting for those car lights just to disappear. You can just see them coming across there now. So a little bit shorter exposure than before, so I'm getting more chance to actually get those shots in between the lights of the traffic coming through. But it really is beautiful. Gotta say, it's cold on the hands, but totally worth being out here at this time of the morning. Now what I've done is I've brought myself as high as I can above the lock here to really make the most of some of these reflections that we've got. You find that the higher you get, it really does emphasize some of those sort of patches of light where the water is just so still. And I'm just managing to get those pink skies reflecting in the water. Now, what I've done is I've set up a couple of compositions. One, I'm using these sort of isolated rocks in front here as a bit of a foreground interest, although I'm not too sure whether it just leaves a little bit too much of a sort of open area. So what I'm doing is taking this shot, but then just slightly adjusting it, moving those rocks out of the image and just capturing those hills behind. So you can see on my first composition, what I've done is I've included these rocks just in front as a bit of foreground interest, but I am a little concerned that there's a little bit too much open area. The reflections are beautiful and the light's stunning, but most of my focus of the image is up here with the mountains, the rocks coming out and the trees, and we've got this big open area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this shot and then I'm going to reposition the camera, just bring it up slightly, just so that we then lose those rocks and just get this nice rock formation that's coming out here, a little less blank area. Although I think it will be nice. I think we will get some beautiful color in the water coming through here and the cloud reflections, but it might just be too much open space down the bottom on my right-hand side. The rocks make a great foreground interest and they really do sort of pull the eye in, but as I say, just a little bit concerned about this sort of area around here. So anyway, let's get this shot. Just to show you how cold it really is, you can see the ice is just starting to form on the end of my lens hood, and also my tripod is covered in ice. It really is bitter cold this morning. So I've got myself fairly low down here, and what I'm trying to do is capture some of this light on the hills behind. Unfortunately, that cloud cover is incredibly low, so I'm losing the top of the mountain, which makes it very difficult to incorporate into the scene. But I have got these nice rocks in front of me that are just sort of sat in the ice there. So what I'm trying to do is get myself fairly low to close up the gap between the rocks and the hills behind, and just use some of that mountain behind with the splash of light on it as a little bit of background interest. But perhaps the main focus is the isolated rocks with the sort of frost on the top of them. So anyway, going to take this shot while that light's there. It's really sort of catching in the clouds above, which is really nice. So let's get this shot. So I've come a little bit further along the loch here just to sort of capture. What I've done is I've positioned myself into an area that hasn't got so much light, because the sun's really coming up now and it's really hitting some of the sort of hills behind and the light's way too bright. But by coming back this side, I've managed to get out of the light and I've got a beautiful scene looking through here. What I'm just trying to do is set up so that I can separate all my subject within the image so that the rocks aren't touching and the land isn't touching. But let me show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera. So just looking on the back of the camera, you can see that I've just got this little bit of nice ice frosty land jetting out here from the bottom of my scene, and it really is, because it's still in the shadow, there's still a real blue tone to it, a cold blue tone, whereas we've got the light just hitting on the mountains behind. Now, I've already taken a couple of shots where I think probably the light was a little bit better than this. It's a little bit harsh now coming through, but we've got the mountains behind. And then what I've done is I've separated all of the elements. So this rock I've brought round so that it's not touching this outer island behind, separated as many of these rocks as I can. There's a wee little tree just on the island there, which is just going into my image behind, but I can't get into a position where that isn't sort of touching into the land behind. So I think that's about as good as I'm going to get there. But I really love the sort of cool blue tones of the lower portion of the image, and then it warms up as that light's coming through, hitting the mountains behind. You can see there's quite a lot of cloud cover still, which is a shame because it is cutting off the top of the mountain. But if it wasn't there, we would have a bland blue sky. So that's the trouble with us photographers, we're never satisfied. But it really does make a really nice scene with that contrast in the colour there, with the warm light behind, cool light in the foreground image. So anyway, let's enough of my waffling, let's take that shot. So I don't know if you can see on the film camera there, but the top of the mountain is just starting to peek through that bit of band of cloud. And it's really nice to sort of capture that just as it's coming through. We've still got that cold colour on the foreground of the image with that band of warm light coming through. I don't think it's such a good composition from here because I've still got the wee tree on the island that's just coming through into my sort of background there. I can't isolate that in any way, but I have managed to separate the rocks and bits. One of those images looks nice on the camera with the strong contrast, but we'll see when we get it back on the computer whether it works. Perhaps that light's a little too harsh now, just coming through there. The trees in the background are really sort of hitting the light, so it might just be that little bit too much contrast. So possibly that might be the best of the light for now, but I think I'm just going to go and perhaps focus on some of the small rocks with the grasses, get some little bit intimate scenes. So I've just come down to the edge of the Lochn here, which is just the one corner that seems to be out of the light. And I've got these small little root shoots that are coming up through the ice that have still got some frost on them. And they look really nice, contrasted against the dark waters. A little bit of ice on the top of the water, and then these shoots coming through, which have got the hoarfrost just on the edges of them. And it really is beautiful with the contrast. So I'm just working my way around just to see if I can just isolate a couple of them, just to give myself a nice little scene. There are a couple there which I really like, so I'm just going to position the camera and see if I can separate them from the rest of the grasses that are coming up through there. So what I found here is this sort of small ice forest, these shoots that have come up through the ice, which form these little trees that are covered in ice. And what I really like about a scene like this is there's no sense of scale. We've got the beautiful soft blue light reflecting off of the ice, the cold light, and then just captured on the edge of these twigs coming through here are just sort of specks of ice that are just capturing the light, and it really does make a nice abstract scene. I'll show you what I'm looking at on the back of the camera. So you can see we just, on the back of the camera here, we just got these small twigs that are coming out from the ice. You've got those beautiful blue colours, soft, cool colours that are coming in with some light hitting the background there. And there's a little bit of a sort of a dark branched twig that's coming through on my right-hand side, but unfortunately I can't do anything about that, so probably going to have to take that out in post. But I really like the sort of small ice formations on these sticks that are coming through the ice here, and then against the contrast of that, against that dark blue water with the ice on the top. I think it really does make a sort of wintry scene in miniature. So anyway, let me take that shot, and here it is. So I was just taking a shot of the mountains there, getting really low, trying to capture the reflections. And I heard this rolling sound and watched my filter, my polarizer filter, just roll across the ice. And it's just stopped over there. So I finished taking my pictures because fortunately I'm wearing wellies, Arctic wellies. So what I'm going to do now is try and get across and retrieve my filter. I'm hoping it's not too deep that it goes over the top of my boots. I don't want to leave it there. It's a really expensive filter, so let's see if we can go get it. I'm hoping that the ice isn't too thick that I can't break through it, because I don't really want to try and balance on top. Oh yeah, oh, it's deep. Oh, we're going for it. Just not too deep to be able to get across. Oh, the joys of photography. Oh, oh. Filter retrieved, feet still dry. So far. Oh. Well, it's been an incredible morning here in Rannoch Moor. I'm so pleased that we got up at 5 in the morning and headed out. It was difficult to get out of bed this morning. It was icy cold, -5 degrees, but it's been so worth it. And the light has been absolutely stunning. But even now, I mean, that light's quite harsh, but the scene behind me is just absolutely beautiful. I don't think the ice will be around much longer. I think that sun will probably melt off a lot of it, but definitely pays to get here that early, just so that you've still got the frost. Fortunately, I managed to retrieve the filter. Let me know in the comments below if you've had any times where you've been chasing gear, managed to retrieve it, or perhaps didn't. And I think that's it. I think it's time to go get a warm coffee. I've got a flask of coffee in the car, and heat up a little bit, scrape the ice off the gear. And anyway, just thank you so much for watching. Always appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I think that's it. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.